Happy Thursday, everybody. Welcome to ANF Sports Tonight. I'm sports producer Scott Pennyman here with Freddie C., Frederick Campagna.
How you doing, Scott?
Good. How about you, man? You happy?
About ready to be a hot take machine for the next 25 minutes or so.
Well, like I always say, whenever you're in the show, we're going to just be all over some NBA. But tonight,
Different. NFL is king.
Gonna start with some football. NFL schedule release. We got the Falcons. At least they're saying the Falcons have the easiest schedule so far, man. Just from what you see.
Well, it's strength of schedule. Just run the numbers. And the NFC South in general, all the teams have a pretty easy schedule. The Buccaneers schedule is not as easy because they're playing a first-place schedule next year. But the Falcons do have the easiest schedule in the league. In fact, their opponents have a winning percentage of, let me get it out. I got it right here.
Yeah, I mean, just when you look at it, man, it's like
417.
Right. The other thing I will say is often with the NFL, we look at these schedules, right, and we go, look, this is an easy schedule, this is a hard schedule. But we're basing that off last season. Right, we're basing this off last season. We know in the NFL, things change from year to year. One season is often nothing like the previous season, and you have no idea who's going to be good from year to year. So you can look at these schedules. That's why I know everyone else gets all excited about the schedule release. I'm like, whatever,
Right.
I mean,
right. So I think a better way to do a strength of schedule would be if you don't include the division games. So it's an out-of-division strength of schedule.
True.
Because the Falcons, Panthers, the Saints, and the Bucs all stunk last year, record-wise, comparatively. So that's factored into their strength of schedule.
True.
But they're all playing each other. So, so that drags everything down. If you look at it, the AFC East teams and the NFC East teams have some of the harder strengths of schedule because those divisions were pretty good.
Right. Now, it's pretty cool, too, when you look at least if this turns out to be how it actually is. Right now, the rumors are kind of saying the first two games are going to start with the Panthers at home and a home against the Packers. If it ends up lining up that way, that's pretty cool because if you're the Falcons, you get two young I guess you could say two inexperienced quarterbacks to start the season, back-to-back, with Bryce Young and then Jordan Love, who's been in the league, seems like for 10 years now, but hasn't started yet because he's been waiting for Aaron Rodgers to just go away. So, I mean, I think that works out pretty favorably for the Falcons if that holds true.
Yeah, and these rumors are usually right. So
where there's smoke,
Panthers
there's fire.
Start, Packers set. You can't ask for a better start. Both games at home. The one thing it does, though, is it puts pressure on you to be 2-0.
Yeah, for sure.
Anything short of 2-0 with that starting schedule, I think, is a failure or a step to success, if we want to use Giannis's term. But it's not good, right? So like you said, inexperienced as quarterbacks. You don't want to call Jordan Love still young. I mean, he looked pretty good in the games that he played. When he was in there last year.
He did.
And we think Bryce Young's probably going to be a pretty good NFL quarterback, but great to get him in his first ever NFL game.
Absolutely.
Assuming he's the starter.
Right. I have no idea. I guess they could start some veteran retread to start the season and instead of Bryce Young. But
you never know how it's going to go exactly. Right. But, their investment for him is probably for more than 1 year. So if he's not ready, maybe they won't want to throw him out there to the wolves, so to speak, because the Falcons' defense should be better, definitely, than it was last year. They spent a lot of money on that side of the ball in free agency. So that's exciting, though. It gives these Falcons fans something to get fired up about, is a couple of home games to start the season and maybe be at the top of the division after the first two games.
Yeah, and when you really look at the home opponents, too, I mean, they can really do some business with this schedule. I mean, just kind of when you look at New Orleans, Tampa Bay, Carolina, Green Bay, Minnesota, Houston, Indianapolis, and Washington, I mean, I don't see a lot of really good quarterbacks there. I see some very winnable games, especially at home. And then on the road, once again, that's not that impressive either.
Well, let's talk about that home schedule. So Minnesota, it's the hardest home game, right?
Yeah, that I
would say. Well,
for sure.
Teams like the Saints, division games are always going to be tough.
Right.
I would say Minnesota or the Saints. The Saints should be better with Carr at quarterback, but we'll see. Division game, those are always tough. Saints don't really think too much about coming into Atlanta and winning.
No.
Same way the Falcons, might not think that much about going into Carolina and winning. Going to these other division stadiums you're used to playing in there. It's not that much of a foreign environment. But other than that, Indianapolis, Anthony Richardson probably.
Young
right?
quarterbacks.
Who is the quarterback for the Commanders?
Right now, I think they're going with Sam Howell from
That's
North
right.
Carolina. I mean,
inexperience.
Right, totally inexperienced.
And what was the other team you ran down there?
You got the Colts. The Colts may have a young quarterback too with Anthony Richardson.
Yeah.
The Houston Texans, C.J. Stroud.
Right. Or the kid from Stanford, who was their quarterback last year. If Stroud, there will be some. I think that's a situation. So I think we will see Bryce Young in Week 1.
Davis Mills.
Davis Mills. That's right.
Yeah. He's from Atlanta, I do believe too. Yeah.
So I think that it's probably, if I had to lay odds on it, 50-50 as to whether you're going to see Mills or Stroud for the Texans in Week 1. Because Mills is a veteran that knows the system, and if Stroud doesn't have a great camp and a great preseason, maybe you lay off it for a little bit and see how things go for the first few weeks and possibly get him in there in October. So.
Yeah, so I guess it depends on when they play Houston as to where. And like I say, when you look at the road schedule, I mean, just when you look at that, I mean, obviously they have the division opponents. You have the Bears on the road, the Lions, the Jaguars. That game's going to be over in London. And then you have the Tennessee Titans, Arizona Cardinals, and the Jets. That's Aaron Rodgers. So, I mean, probably a little tougher than the home schedule when you look at some of those road games. But even still, I mean, I think that's not a bad schedule when you look at.
All right, it's May 11th.
Right.
Throw a record at me. Looking at that schedule.
See, so much just depends on how Desmond Ridder develops. I mean, I don't know what we're going to get this year. To me, that's everything. I mean, that's literally everything. I know they drafted some good weapons around Ridder, but I think Desmond Ridder's development is going to mean everything. If I had to guess right now, just from what I know, just from what I see as far as the schedule, I think it's going to be kind of similar to last season. I think we're looking at 7-8 wins, honestly.
7-10 or 8-9? Which one?
I'm gonna go 8-9.
8-9.
I'm gonna go 8-9. Yeah, just because it's just so hard just to really, man.
Yeah.
I want Ridder to take that big jump so they can be a lot better, but I don't know that I have that confidence.
Well, mark the tape on this. 10-7.
10-7.
Well, just looking at that schedule, you got to go 10-7 on that schedule. You did spend some money in free agency.
You did.
You got Ridder, who did play some games last year. You have some talent offensively. You have the
they have some pieces.
Tier running back who should be able to come in and be an NFL impact running back from the start. Plus, you have Algier. So you should be able to grind down some of these teams, play some defense against these inexperienced quarterbacks. I'm almost talking myself into 11-6, but I'm not going.
That's
that
bold,
far.
man. That's bold to me. Like I said,
that's a little too much of a fire take. We'll just go with 10-7.
Ridder will have to take a giant step. But I don't know.
Definitely. That's the thing. It's like you said. And of course that's what's uncertain. But you're 8-9. I'm 10-7. We'll revisit this in about 9 months.
So we really are here to talk basketball, right? I mean, that's what we really want to get to.
I mean, I love the NFL. The schedule release has become such a big thing. The social media teams at the teams at the NFL organizations have a field day with it. I don't know if you've seen the old F around and find out meme. Well, the Falcons tweeted one out. If you haven't, go check out the Falcons Twitter thread. It says find out on the left side like it always does. And it says, instead of saying F around, it says Falcon around, which is actually pretty funny. So they tweak that, meme to their liking. So it's always fun. It would be great to see that official schedule when it comes out later.
And man, the NFL are masters of snatching the headlines even in the offseason when there's not games being played, right? I mean, the NFL draft, the OTAs get attention, the draft combine. I mean, they put these things in prime time now. So the NFL are masters of getting attention even when there aren't games being played. So I think that's pretty cool.
And when there are games being played, they're starting to just spread like a virus as far as that goes, because I'm all right with Black Friday. I'm all right. Christmas is on a Monday with a game. Mm-hmm. But are there 3 games on Christmas? I think there might be. I'm not positive.
I guess we'll see,
But I thought I heard that if there's any more than 1 game on a Monday on Christmas, that's too many. So does that mean that they're just going to take over Christmas so that next year when Christmas is on a Tuesday, are we going to get multiple NFL games? I hope not. the NBA's already been doing their thing. It was fine last year when Christmas was on a Sunday, but Black Friday I'm cool with.
I think we're going to reach a point at some point where there are going to be NFL games on every day during the week.
Every day during the week. And when those aren't on in January, we'll have college football playoff games. So this is not really a bad thing most of the time.
I think we saw a lot of what can happen or how flexible they can be throughout the week the year of the pandemic, right? In 2020, we had games on Tuesdays and stuff,
Well, we'll see what the Players Union thinks about that.
Right, yeah, well, yeah, but, how it works with the NFL, if there's enough money involved, you can get the Players Union to do almost anything. So,
basically, it seems like the way it's gone.
Right.
All right, now let's go NBA.
Let's talk some NBA, man. Last night, for those of you who stayed up late, which I think for this Lakers and Golden State series most people are, Golden State Warriors win last night. They string it out to a Game 6. They won, was a 121 to 106, right? So they went ahead. But I think the bigger story when you look at just moving forward, Anthony Davis hit in the face by Kevon Looney. It kind of makes him loony. He kind of goes to the bench and he's all woozy and everything. And they say he has to be taken out in a wheelchair, but then they say it's walking. It was conflicting reports. But from today, everyone reported that he will be a go in Game 6.
So this has been – I haven't paid that close attention to it today, but I've seen the rumblings. Stephen A. said something about whether questioning to some degree whether he would actually have a concussion. Shaq and Chuck had some giggles over the whole thing with and I think that is more due to they never really said exactly what they were laughing about, but it has more to do with AD's reputation
his history.
Multiple times a game seeming like his career is over with an injury that can be a jammed finger or something. So I think his reputation kind of got the best of him there. Concussions aren't really something to joke about. Apparently he doesn't have one, so it's a kind of a moot point. But, Lakers fans, if things aren't going the Lakers' way in the third quarter tomorrow night or in Game 6, then starting to get a little tight because then you start to go, wow, this could be going back to Golden State for Game 7.
Game 7. Yeah, just look, I still believe the Lakers are going to win this series. I think they're going to go home tomorrow, and I think they're going to win. However, when you look at, the pressure is on the Lakers tomorrow. I truly believe that the pressure shifts from Golden State last night, and I think it shifts back to the Lakers because I think they're under pressure to take care of this, to secure that home because that rope is going to get tight. That ice water in those veins, man, it's going to get really, really tested in a Game 7 if they have to go back to San Francisco in that crazy environment. Obviously, then, if Golden State wins tomorrow now, I'm sorry, if Golden State wins tomorrow, they're obviously going to have some momentum. That's going to be a hard Game 7 to go in and win.
Yeah. Well, you talked a lot about momentum and tides shifting and stuff like that. I'll take the side that I think it's something for the fans to talk about. But I think that when it comes to the teams, at this point in the playoffs and at this point in these series, it does not matter. I don't think so. I just think of it from a competitive standpoint, right? So take last night's game, Lakers. I'm sure they wanted to tip up Game 6 as soon as Game 5 ended. They weren't, because they know they can beat Golden State if they play well. And that's the same thing with the Celtics tonight in Philadelphia. As soon as that game ended in Boston, fans wanted to be like, what's wrong with this team? What's wrong with Missoula? Why can't these guys get it done? Blah, blah, blah. They stunk. They played bad. It happens, right? They did not play well. But they have beaten Philadelphia twice pretty handily in the series, and the 2 of the 3 times they lost, aside from Tuesday night, were last possession losses. So they know they can beat Philadelphia, and they probably wanted another crack at it right away, and they will get another crack at it tonight. So I think that, the idea of momentum, I don't buy into it as much in these series when you get this deep into it. Yes, if a team comes out and wins their first couple of games and you haven't found success against that team yet, you may be thinking, okay, that's a little different.
I'm going to go back a little bit, right? So obviously I'm a Cleveland Cavaliers fan, grew up in Cleveland, Ohio. So 2016 NBA Finals. The Cavs trailed in that series 3-1. Mm-hmm. Game 4, everything was going bad. Draymond Green gets suspended for Game 5. Cavs come in. That's the game when Kyrie Irving and LeBron both score 40. You can tell then that ball of momentum got going. Game 6, they blow Golden State out, and they roll that into Game 7 for a win. I think momentum can be powerful.
So let me clarify. Yeah. All right, so I'll go back to another one. It wasn't basketball, but by the time the Red Sox had knotted up the series with the Yankees at 3-3, I mean, that tidal wave was about to crash down on the Yankees, and it definitely did in Game 7, right? Yeah. All of a sudden, it's like there's no way the Yankees can even win that series. I agree with you. When Cleveland, the Draymonds, a few dominoes start to fall. Right. What I'm saying is that from Game 5 to Game 6, I don't think there's necessarily momentum in there. Now, if Golden State goes in and wins by 16 again in LA, then there may be momentum.
Right.
I think after a couple of games in a row, it's a little bit different. When you look at the Celtics and Sixers series, the Sixers snuck one out in Wells Fargo in overtime, and then the Celtics laid an egg, and the Sixers played great in Game 5. So I don't see the same level of momentum in that series necessarily.
So let me hit that Sixers and Celtics series a little bit. So I was really surprised at the Game 5 effort by the Celtics. I mean, they really just look lethargic. The 76ers, I'm just wondering right now, look, I would never bury the Celtics. I think they have a really good chance to win this game. Yeah. I think the Celtics, I wouldn't count them out. But when you look at and I'm not even talking about momentum, just good old-fashioned good old-fashioned effort, enthusiasm for this time of year. It seems like the 76ers may have a little bit more of a sense of urgency. When you look at James Harden, he's getting later in his career. Joel Embiid's been around for a little while now. PJ Tucker, he's kind of a veteran player. I don't know, man. It seems like the 76ers just kind of want this a little more than the Celtics for whatever reason. I don't know.
Well, maybe this is me being a little bit of a Celtics apologist, but have you ever been in the situation where, whether it's an exam or a performance of some kind or a sporting event, where it's big, it's big, and you're thinking more result than you're thinking process? And I think that's what the worst thing that happened at the Celtics the other night is they did not go through the process of winning. They were thinking more about the result of winning. True. And that can happen, I think, sometimes when you're the favorite in a Game 5 at home. You think about how great it's going to be if you win. Next thing you know, you're down 14, and you're scrambling to get it back. And so I think that you'll see a different Celtics team tonight. I don't expect this team with Brown and Tatum and Horford and Smart, guys who have played upwards of 80, 100-plus playoff games, had deep runs in the playoffs, to just go out with a whimper. They've been there before. They've been down before. Last year they had to go in, a really tough Milwaukee team. They had handed away, just given away Game 5 at home to Milwaukee, blew a big lead late, and then lost that game. And then went into Milwaukee. Tatum scores 45, they win. And then come back and win Game 7. Right. So same thing tonight. If Philly's going to win, they're going to need huge games from their role players. Doc is going to have to continue to outcoach Joe Mazzulla, which he's done. I don't know how much you could do that at Game 6 in a series, how many new wrinkles there are that Doc can put in there. But I think if Philly's going to win tonight, it's going to have to be kind of a blitz to where you break the Celtics and you get up 20-25 at halftime or something like that.
Just one more quick footnote on that game, just before we kind of discuss the Suns and Nuggets.
Yeah.
How much do you think the Celtics miss Ime Udoka right now and his level of composure and experience for those kind of big games?
He was the new coach last year. I don't think much. I think that's completely overblown. Like I just said, this team had a chance to go up 3 games to 1. Wait, where are we? Go up 3-2 on Milwaukee, right, at home.
True.
Last year. And didn't do it.
Right.
And lost the game in a similar fashion to the way they lost the game against the Hawks in Game 4 this year. All right. Right? No, Game 5 this year.
Game 5.
Game 5 this year. Right? So that was a game where Boston was leading Milwaukee most of the game, and then they just throw it away at the end. This year, Game 5, they were leading the Hawks. Hawks looked like they were sleepwalking. They throw it away. So this stuff happened last year under Ime.
Okay, yeah.
It's no different.
All right, well.
It's the playoffs. Everybody wants to win. See, I think a lot of Celtics fans have this standard where they think that the Celtics are going to go 16-4 in the playoffs and bring home,
It doesn't happen a lot, right? I mean, that's not really realistic.
It's never easy to win a championship. It wasn't easy for Golden State to win a championship last year.
That's true. Yeah. It's always hard. That's why the NBA playoffs were so special, because it's the greatest players in the world playing at the highest level of competition, which brings me to the Suns and Nuggets. And I got to wonder if the Suns are in a little bit of trouble tonight, especially with DeAndre Ayton sitting out with a rib contusion, right? Yeah. Now, I don't know what sort of world we've gotten to where an NBA player, a very important NBA player for his team, in a game 6, a very pivotal game to keep your season alive, is sitting out with a rib contusion, right?
Yeah, to be in street clothes, that's surprising. Maybe it's a cartilage issue. I've never broken a rib or had, but I from what I've heard, cartilage, damage in your rib cage can be extremely painful. If he's got a bang with Jokic or whatever, then that can be just not doable. But it is surprising. He hasn't been a factor really in the series anyway, though, right? It's been Booker and Durant.
Right.
I've heard a lot of people calling for the other guy to get more minutes, the other big to get more minutes.
Well, he's going to get him tonight.
He's definitely going to get him tonight. And that's been a series that I will see. There's been some great individual performances by Booker mostly. Jokic has been super solid in that series, and I know our next topic's about the playoff MVP, so we can talk about that in a little bit. But that series, for whatever reason, hasn't done it for me. I don't know.
Well, look, I tell you what, we're going to find out a lot about Kevin Durant tonight, right? Because it's a situation, no Chris Paul, no DeAndre Ayton.
Yeah.
And that roster, as is already, even with those guys, was a very top-heavy roster.
Yeah.
Now you're going to have to see what Kevin Durant and what Devin Booker are all about, because they're going to have to carry that team tonight. To me, this is one of those, I know we do this every year, right? We make every game a referendum on everything, right, in the NBA playoffs. But I think this is one of those games for Kevin Durant. When you look at him getting traded, they were all about winning a championship this season. So I think now, just given that situation, no Chris Paul, no DeAndre Ayton, we're going to really see Kevin Durant have to carry that team over the finish line in a must-win situation. Yeah. And if he can't do that, I think people are going to cast some doubts over
Let me ask you this,
what his career is.
Do you think that the last peak, right, for Kevin Durant that we saw was when his toe was on the line against Milwaukee?
Maybe.
Right?
Yeah.
Because think about it since then. Some great regular season games.
Right.
Swept by Boston last year in round 1. So far this playoffs, they managed to get
He's had some moments, but nothing.
Moments, exactly.
Right.
But nothing that's like, wow.
No.
This is like the Milwaukee game was wow.
Right.
That was the Kevin Durant we were getting there was like, this guy is unreal. He was outplaying Giannis. He was just incredible, and by this much, he had his toe on the line, and Milwaukee advances and wins a championship off of it.
Yeah, how about that?
So we haven't seen that level of Kevin Durant since then, and you're right. We probably need to see it at some point in the next couple of games if Phoenix is going to stay off the golf course.
We need to see it in the next couple hours because if they don't get it tonight, I don't think there's going to be a rest of this season.
All right, well, of course. And let's talk about the MVP of the playoffs.
Yeah, okay,
because Booker's in that conversation for sure. He had a 2-game run there where I think he was shooting like 80%, but scoring a ton of points, which for a guard is almost unheard of.
Crazy.
My guy, though, because I know we're getting a little bit short on time, my guy for MVP in the playoffs so far, probably kind of a boring pick, but Jokic.
Jokic?
Yeah.
My MVP so far these playoffs is Anthony Davis, right? And I know he's been, I guess, kind of hear me out. He's been up and down, right? I mean, normally when you look at Anthony Davis, it's a really good game, it's an outstanding game, then it's a step back. And it's a really good game, and it's a step back. But I believe his impact on the Golden State series, right now they're up 3-2, I think his impact on both ends of the floor have them in the position that they're in right now, where they have 2 opportunities to win one game to be able to advance to the Western Conference Finals. He's the best player. I know LeBron James is the 38-year-old. You know, he has all of the career accolades on his side. Their most important player is Anthony Davis. They don't get anywhere without Anthony Davis. If Anthony Davis wasn't healthy most of this season, if he didn't come back strong, they would be at home right now. Yeah. So I think Anthony Davis is the most important. I think he's been the best player in the playoffs so far.
So that's what I was going to say. You have him as your MIP. And I agree with that.
I mean, I think he's most valuable, too, just because of what he –
Well, so if I think MVP, I'm thinking about a guy who's consistently stepped up. The problem is Anthony Davis has had a couple of clunkers in there. So that adds to your argument that he's the most important guy on the floor because he needs to play. When he plays well, the Lakers are really, really hard to beat. When he doesn't play well, they're a lot easier to beat. So that's a good point.
The Lakers are my favorite right now. I think they're coming out the West, and I think they're going to have a great chance to win a championship. Right. And I think mostly that's because Anthony Davis has been more on than off.
And they are still in the driver's seat. Yeah. You know, I think other guys in the consideration for it would have to be Butler.
For sure,
You know, Jalen Brunson's been the best guy in the Knicks, but even he's had some games that weren't great. Hate to say it, but I don't hate to say it, but surprisingly, Harden.
James Harden has been.
Now, he's been important in the same way that you were just talking about Davis. Davis has probably been a little bit more consistent than Harden, hasn't had as many clunkers.
For sure.
But Harden has had 2 games that weren't good in this series. Sixers didn't come close to winning either one, and then he's been very good in the 3 games that they've won.
Yeah, I mean, just like I say, I think that, you know, just – and Jokic, to your point, I think with Jokic, he's just so good and so steady that sometimes you kind of overlook him.
Consistency. He's a guy who you go to the gym, you're going to run, you know, some games, and after a few times going, you're like, oh, that guy, okay, I want to be on that guy's team. Because that guy, you know, is just going to distribute the ball, and you're probably going to stay on the floor and get a good run in, you know.
Right. I mean, he really hasn't had a really bad performance in these playoffs yet. So I get where you're coming from with that, too. Yeah. So – want to get to what's on your mind? What's on your mind?
How about you go first with what's on your mind while I dig back in my mind to find out what's on there?
No, so, you know, right before we came on today, I saw this story, and I was joking around with our producer, Brett. Not joking around. This isn't funny. But Bo Jackson, we all know Bo Jackson, right?
Oh, yeah.
I saw a story recently where he's going to have a medical procedure really soon because he's had a year-long case of the hiccups. I have never heard of a case of the hiccups being a year long.
I've heard of it. It's kind of crazy that he has to have a medical procedure, right?
A medical procedure.
And this is Bo we're talking about here. Probably the best athlete, I think, overall in the last 50 years, right? Yeah, no, seriously, one of them.
Right.
So that's what's on your mind?
And you can't beat the hiccups. That sucks, man.
Yeah, I know we're running low on time.
Okay, go ahead.
Quickly. I mean, there's not much to say about what's on my mind. But one thing I can't get out of my mind is Bob Huggins. Like, I mean, he should be gone.
Yeah.
In today's day and age, you just to get away with that, you know, they dock him $1 million pay or whatever, but he's still there.
Yeah, he should be out of there.
It's time to say bye-bye. And which, on that note, it is actually time to say goodbye. So, see ya.
It's been really cool on Thursday. Later.
Yeah, you gonna wheel me out of here?
ANF Sports Tonight.